go.
Here we go. Let's do it. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Midwest Married. Thank you so much. And tonight, we have the pleasure of bringing on our good friend, Mr. Ryan Miller.
Yes.
Yay!
Yes. Thanks for having me. I'm pumped. Good friend of the family for something. Feels like years.
Well, it has been years. It has been years.
Forever.
Since before we were married.
We were kids or something.
Yeah.
2011, really.
Yeah. Yeah. 2000.
So,
yeah. It was. Now we're here.
Yeah.
Started at the bottom, now we're here.
13 years. All right. So tonight, we picked a topic that we felt would be right up your alley.
Yeah.
All right. Everyone, these are solely our opinions. And I just want to say that this can be considered maybe a touchy subject.
Yeah, it's like touchy,
I'm hoping it's a little juicy.
Yeah.
But we picked adoption for tonight's theme.
And why did we do that, Matt?
I don't know. Ryan, why would we have done that?
Well, I'm adopted, so I think just whatever stories that we're reading tonight, we'll just have good opinions behind them, some good commentary, and some real life, just real life feelings, real life tips and stuff.
Yeah.
Not tips, but like just real life
Insight from someone who has gone through that process in a way, personally. So,
yeah.
All right.
Excellent. All right. And you've not seen any of the stories.
I was just going to say that I don't know what these stories are. Haven't seen them. So these will be off the cuff, authentic stuff.
All right.
Here we go.
Let's do it. All right, guys. We're going to start it off with the Reddit story here.
All right.
We got a few good ones here. All right. Am I the asshole for telling my sister she was out of her mind when she said she wanted to take back my child, whom I adopted from her? OP writes, my 36 female sister, Nicole, 29, got pregnant at 18. I am infertile and knew I couldn't have kids. So when Nicole said she was giving her baby up for adoption, I decided to be her mom. Nicole went no contact for 5 months after giving birth. And for a bit of background, Nicole got pregnant by a one-night stand, and she apparently didn't remember or know the father at the time of birth. But when Victoria, my baby, was 2, a man, T, we'll call him Tyler, 35, messaged me on social media claiming to be the father of my child. Nicole had run into him at a nightclub and drunkenly confessed her pregnancy. We met up, he bonded with his daughter, and well, that man, he's now my husband of 7 years. Coming back to my sister, she called me up yesterday. Although I was surprised at her call, I picked up. We made some small talk, and then she had gotten married a year back, and both of them wanted children, but couldn't because her husband was infertile, but really wanted kids. I asked her if she wanted to adopt, and she said she would just need to get her baby back. I was speechless. For a few moments before replying that if she wants to meet my child as an aunt, she is welcome to do that, and we both can sit down with Victoria and explain the reason for her absence. But she can't just ask me to give up my child. She said she'll sue me as she's the birth mother. I told her she was out of her fucking mind, and I told her about Tyler. She exploded, calling me names and saying I stole her life. I got too emotional and I ended up hanging up. Tyler came home from work, and upon explaining this all to him, he was beyond furious. I then got a call from my parents saying that I was the asshole for telling Nicole she couldn't have her baby back. I said I never said that, and I welcomed her to bond with Victoria, but they refused to even listen, and they said I was being insensitive and harsh and flaunting my family.
Go back, because there's a typo when I read this. The parents said that she said she couldn't see. Like the typo is see, not she.
There we go. You are right. So the parents called in and said that Nicole was saying that she couldn't even see Victoria, which was not true, right?
Right.
Typos, people. Oof. I now feel bad because me and Nicole were very close as sisters growing up. I feel really close to her situation since I know the struggles of infertility. Tyler said there was no way he was letting my sister have full-time custody of our child, and I agree. But I want to know if I'm the asshole for being too harsh and then also telling her about Tyler. I also want to note that I did legally adopt Victoria at birth. Tyler adopted her too after we had gotten married. Nicole never wanted kids, and I feel the only reason she wants Victoria now is because her husband wants kids and can't. I don't know what to think, and Tyler also agrees with me at this point.
Is she the asshole?
Oh my gosh. That's wild. There's so many twists and turns in that story. Honestly, I don't even know where to begin. Like, there's so many avenues. Like, is she the asshole about the adoption, or the asshole about being with Tyler?
What do you think about the sister wanting to just waltz into... It sounds like they haven't talked to each other forever. I mean, like, she didn't know her sister's husband. So seems like they've been estranged for years and years. And all of a sudden she's like, hey, you know that kid you adopted that I gave birth to? I don't know how many years ago. I think it might say a little bit later.
7 years ago.
7 years ago.
Can I just have that kid back?
Yeah.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Because that's ultimately what she wants.
Yeah.
Is that she wants to resume custody after her sister legally adopted that child.
That's a long time that you cannot have that child back.
No.
So you can't just waltz in and say, that's 7 years is a long time.
Yeah.
Like, relationship, and like, that's a lot. It's like an eternity for the kid. Like, that's all the kid knows too.
Right.
Are those parents.
Can you imagine at 7 years old having some stranger come in and be like, hey, I'm your biological mom. You're going to come live with me now.
Yeah.
And for the record, Ryan also has children, and your oldest is how old?
8.
8. So
similar,
very similar, right? Yep. So somebody comes in and is like, hey, I'm going to take your daughter from you.
No, that's
ridiculous.
That's not happening. And when you get to that point, like how old that child is already, like that's all they know is like, you're not my mom, or I'm not related to you. And this is all I know right here. So no.
Right.
I think it's absolutely disrespectful, one, to even ask, because OP was doing sister. In my opinion, I think that OP was doing her sister a favor by adopting her daughter, right? Keeping that very...
See, I don't even know about that.
And see, that's I kind of cringe at that verbiage.
Too. Yep. That's like too keeping it in the family, you know?
I don't know. We have friends that have done this.
Yeah. And I think it's worked well for them.
And favor might be the wrong word, but I think it was a mutually beneficial situation at the time. How about that? And I think that at the time you didn't want kids. You have to understand that the bond that has transpired over 7 years, like it's just not right. And I think Nicole can go pound sand, like I said earlier.
Yeah. I thought it was super cool and serendipitous that the child's birth father, though, like discovered somehow, that he was the dad, and then he wanted to be involved, and he met the child, and then he and OP hit it off, and now they're married. I just think that's so cute.
So is OP an asshole for that? Not recognizing that, hey, this is my sister's one night stand, baby daddy, and I'm going to cross these lines to a degree. Like, if you were sisters and you're close, why? I mean, clearly there's been some sort of falling out.
It's the father of OP's daughter, though.
I understand, but don't you think as sisters, don't you think that she would have been like, hey, just so you know, Tyler, reached out. I'm letting you know that, like, we're going to start dating, or... But
they didn't mention what was going on at that time.
I was going to say, did she know at that point in time that she was the father, or he was the father of that child, her sister's child?
Yeah. Because Tyler found out drunkenly at the bar, Nicole let it out of the bag.
Oh,
She
That's
let
right.
she let the cat out of the
Yeah.
bag. So
But who knows if sister and Nicole were talking to each other at that point? Like, again, she wasn't at her wedding. OP wasn't at Nicole's wedding. Like, they clearly have not talked to each other. They went no contact for years and years. And
Right.
so I don't think it's her responsibility, especially if there were enough issues that prevented them from like having a relationship
okay.
in the first place.
So does Tyler now want to be involved because it just so happened to work out this way? Or does he truly want to be involved and back into this child's life? Is my question. I was like, oh, you're doing it because it's convenient. You're in the same household now all together and you kind of have to be? Or do you truly...
He married her.
Well, I know, but why?
He probably loved her. They fell in
Or
love.
did you want to get back into the...
I think.
This story is insane. It's just all wrong. Like,
It's all wrong.
they kept it two in the family. They kept it two in the family right from the beginning. I don't think she should have.
All right.
I don't think she should have adopted the baby from her sister.
Oh.
Is what I
that's a
think.
hot
I
take.
think that's too close. That's two in the family. I don't think it's fair to the birth mom from like.
I think it happens.
I think it's too close. I think.
I bet it happens a lot.
I think it happens more than you know.
And look at like the grandmas that are actually mom who
Right.
Yeah.
take over that role. Putting that out there.
Yeah.
You guys are missing one aspect of the story, which I think is bizarre as well.
What?
Maybe I got to take this back and we're going to edit this out. But I was going to say, because there was a typo, right? The parents called.
Yes.
There was a
at the end.
typo. The parents called and were
Called OP and said,
Called OP
"You're
and
the
said,
worst
"You're the
daughter
worst."
ever. Why aren't you just nicer to Nicole?"
but yeah.
Sounds like they coddle Nicole. Sounds like Nicole doesn't have her life together.
And Nicole's a liar
Yeah.
because she did say that Nicole could come see Victoria
as an aunt,
as an aunt. Yeah.
which that's what she is.
So
And the child knows that she's an aunt.
we don't
don't know.
know.
We don't know.
Let's take a look. Let's see what the people
drink
have to
after
say.
that
The biggest upvote on this with 30,000 upvotes is, so let me get this straight. Your child is now 11 years old and your sister thinks she can just swoop in and become her mom, not the asshole.
11. Okay, that's even worse
Yeah,
than
I
what we
was gonna
thought. We
say.
thought it was 7.
Yep.
Let's just uproot this child's life on the whim of a woman who gave up her daughter 11 years ago. OP, not the asshole, as long as the adoption was handled legally. OP's sister doesn't stand a snowball's chance in hell with that type of lawsuit.
Right. That is true.
Yep.
Ah, here's a hot take. It's a little lengthy, but here we go. The hat on the cat. All right, I'm stealing this top comment. I would not let your sister see your child, or if so, certainly not ever alone. Your sister is completely unhinged. She wants to steal your 10 or 11-year-old daughter
Oh.
away from her family so she can have her family and be a mom, basically. This is extremely unkind, even completely ignoring your feelings. This would be a terrible thing to do to your child, and it shows she either gave zero fucks about her daughter at the time or her feelings, or is straight up delusional in her thinking. Given this, she can't be trusted with your child. She can't be trusted for what she would say, what she would do, and frankly, I wouldn't trust her not to kidnap your child either.
Yeah.
If she is allowed to be alone with your child, or even maybe not alone, who knows what she will say in a room full of people either. She could tell your child lies to try to poison her against you. She could tell your child you stole her at birth, etc. She's already claiming that you stole her life when all you have are the facts that you legally adopted her and did everything by the book. What will she say to a kid she is trying to con? She also lied to your parents, so clearly a liar and not above line to get what she wants.
Mic drop.
Hoofty. Yeah, I mean, possible. I think that no matter who you bring into your child's life, they need to be people that you trust, right? Especially if you're leaving them. Would you ever leave your child alone with someone that you don't 100% fully trust?
No.
Yeah. So supervised visits, if visits are something that you feel comfortable with and you're the parent, you've adopted her. And so you get to make the shots. So, wow. You opened up with a doozy, Matt.
Yeah. I also think, do you think there's like some just mental, like not challenge, but just some mental issue behind that? Like the fact that you think that it's okay to waltz in and just take it back without just blinking.
When this
like,
child is
that's
11.
Mine. Oh, it's 11. Like there's got to be some sort of deeper like awareness, mental issue going on. Not in a negative way, but just like.
How does someone think that's okay?
Right.
Right.
So.
Wow.
Yeah. Overall, not the asshole.
Yes.
I've looked, I've gone through, and I cannot find, there's like 100,000 comments on here. I can't find anything else from OP as far as like
updates or
any
anything.
Updates, nothing like that. And no idea if the daughter knows that she's adopted, Victoria, if she's adopted or not. So we don't know. We can only speculate at this point.
Right.
Interesting. Okay. I feel like we need to take a step back here. I probably should have opened with this. Adoption, I think, is a really beautiful thing. I think it's one of those things that it's very beautiful, yet I think it's also a super difficult situation, super difficult decision. I think that I only have respect for everybody who is involved in adoption process, whether it be for whatever different reason it is. You're not ready to have children or, whatever that reason may be. Or for people who are adopting, if it's due to infertility or other reasons, or
goodness
perhaps
of their heart,
they are actually the aunt and, they want to be there. I think it's a really, really beautiful thing. I think that it is also a really, really difficult thing that I 100% give my respect to. So I don't think that I wanted to say that with that story having been shared, because that's wild. So
yeah, there's a lot of big decisions, big emotions, big feelings for all parties involved. Adoptee, adopters, people that are in the mix within the system, employees, whatever it may be. It's big feelings all around. It's not a light subject.
Yeah.
So.
And every single situation, I think, is unique and different. So.
Yeah.
Ryan, do you want to share your adoption story today?
Yeah. Mine's pretty simple, really, other than like the kind of in and out thoughts I have sometimes, or like I just told you guys off air that my 8-year-old daughter found out I was adopted. So she started asking those questions, which made me think even more, which is a total surreal moment. But yeah, I can't remember, I was telling you guys this too, like how old or what grade I was in. I just remember sitting at the table with my parents, not my biological, but what I perceived to be as my real parents. I was adopted when I was a month old. So that's really all I know. But yeah, I was probably 7 or 8. And I remember my mom sitting down and talking to me, telling me what adoption is, not necessarily the whys behind it, but just, how, like you just said, how much of a blessing it is, how much they love me and all this. And honestly, I didn't think anything of it at the time.
Really?
Yep. And my brother's adopted. He's 5 years older than me. So at the time right now, he's 40, I'm 37, and my sister is 27, and we're all adopted. So my brother was adopted from Iowa. That's where my parents met, where they went to medical school.
And you were adopted from Russia,
I was
right?
adopted from Russia. That was bad. Russia.
There's a story.
There's a story. We'll
Stay
get to that
tuned.
later.
That's going to be later in this episode.
No, I was adopted from Boston.
You do that accent maybe a little better. I don't know.
Parked my car in the Harvard yard. Didn't play hockey. No, but I was town outside of Boston. So my parents moved to Massachusetts, where my dad got his first job as in the hospital. That's when they adopted me, and then we ended up moving back here to Minnesota years later. And then my mom always wanted a girl, so at the time she had 2 boys. She always wanted to adopt from Russia. I don't know the details behind why. That was a process for years and years and years, and then that obviously all came together. So yeah, we're all adopted, and we never talk about it. We never think about it. We don't talk about it just because we don't want to talk about it. We just never think about it. Like, we all consider ourselves blood-related family.
You're just family.
I can completely understand that. My siblings are all half, and it's something that just never gets brought up. We grew up together. It is like we are blood. It just
and people find out
up.
I'm adopted. Like, oh, you're adopted? I was like, yeah. Like, I don't see the big deal in that, being adopted in a positive way. Like, obviously what we were just talking about, how it's a blessing from, people giving a child up for adoption. But on my side of it, it's like, yeah, what's the big deal? Like, I don't see an issue with it. And like, oh, it's so awesome.
Because your mom is your mom, your dad is your dad, your siblings are your siblings. Yep. Okay. So when you found out that you were adopted, was that also the time that you found out that your older brother was adopted too? Or did you know that he was adopted?
Nope, at the same time.
Oh, okay.
So I'm sure they had that conversation with him.
Okay. Waited till you were old enough to understand.
Yeah, my brother never said anything. I'm guessing they had that conversation at a different time, around the age I was.
Mm-hmm. So now, was that then a closed adoption where?
No, I think.
Or do you know who your birth parents are? I
could have the opportunity if I wanted to. And my parents have to this day. It was even like, it's an open adoption. So if I wanted to pursue it, I definitely could. I never have. Okay. I've never even thought about doing it, just because, like I said, I was adopted when I was like a month old. Sorry, Mom, if you're watching this and it was like weeks old. I don't remember. But I remember it was like 2 or 3 years ago. It just kind of randomly came up, with my parents saying, hey, just so you know, if you ever want to pursue this, just ask us. And I was like 8 a.m. I was like, good morning. We're going to Menards, and it's too early for this, but I never have. I just never pursued it. Sometimes I think about it like, man, what would somebody, because now before kids, because now it's like, that's a different story when you're adopted and then you have kids. Like, oh my gosh, you have the same fingers as me, kind of like you have something similar to me. Like, before kids, I was like, it is crazy to think that somebody out there might have like the same nose as me, or like, what would my biological mother look like? Would I look more like her, or more like the biological father? What was their story? Were they young? Did they not want me? Were they just too busy in life? Like, those thoughts, like, throughout my life, go in and out very quickly. But that's probably the biggest one, is like, just before kids, thinking how crazy it is that somebody out there could have some sort of me in them. And then when you have kids, it's like, holy crap.
There it is.
Yeah,
there's the nose.
You actually have the same eyes as me.
Yeah.
Not just saying, well, we have the same color eyes. That's cool. But like, no, that's part of me and you. And yeah, so.
Just for my understanding, within an open adoption, I know that the biological parents and the adoptive parents can go back and forth and talk. Does the biological parents, did they have the option to reach out to you?
That I don't know.
Okay.
I've never asked that question.
You've never gotten a phone call being like, hey.
Nope. My parents are very transparent, so they would 1,000,000% guarantee you tell me if they called.
Sure.
But no, I don't think they ever have. And then sometimes like, where are they living? Or are they alive? I don't even know. That's the other thing. Do I have a brother out there? Or like a biological brother out there that I don't know about too? Or a sister?
Just so you know, when this episode's done, I'm ordering 23andMe tests for all of us.
But that's like with the 23andMe though. It's like, do you want to know? That's an entirely different episode of like the 23andMe where people discover that their father that they grew up with is not actually their father. Like it's wild how common of a story that actually is.
Yeah.
That's kind of scary. I don't know. To me. And wild.
Yeah.
Your kids are your kids, Matt. I promise.
Thank you. I have such a good segue into a story that is for a different episode, but I feel like I might have to go and get it.
Oh.
I might have.
I don't know.
And then just to close on this portion too, like
Yes.
this was the other day. We were, my wife and I and our two kids were just sitting in the living room talking, and my wife Alyssa was talking to somebody else, and adoption came up, and the gal that Alyssa was talking to was like, "Oh, Ryan's adopted. Cool. I didn't know that." And so Alyssa said that in the living room, and our 8-year-old was like, "Dad, you're adopted?" I was like, "Yeah. How do you know what adoption is?" Like, I forget. She's going to third grade. They're smart.
They are smart.
She knows exactly which is great, what adoption is. So I went through that whole process, and she's like, "Wait, JoJo is not your real mom?" I was like, no, she is not. And then it's like, okay,
Right.
what rabbit hole do we want to go down at 6 p.m. on a Wednesday night with your 8-year-old? But no, we painted a very beautiful picture of it. Kind of like what we were just talking about today. But yeah, that was kind of wild.
I bet her mind was just blown. Like,
Her eyes,
wait
you
a
could
minute.
tell. She's like,
what?
Like,
Well,
yeah.
and that's because of like the absolute pure like family love that you and your parents have together. Like
Yeah.
your kids are their grandkids. Like case in point to this story,
Yeah,
like
right.
All right.
Good stuff. Let's get
Here we
deeper.
go. Let's keep it going. Let's keep it going.
Yeah.
next story.
All right.
Here we go.
Next story.
Number 2.
Am I the asshole for telling my son that if he changes his last name, then I'm no longer his father? All right, let me start off by saying my son Adam is 22 years old. Back when my ex-wife Tori and I were trying for kids, we found out that I was infertile. We decided we'd adopt. Then about 4 months later, my ex-wife is pregnant. I was thrilled because I thought maybe the doctor made a mistake. No, I was wrong. My ex-wife cheated on me, and I didn't find out until about 20 years later.
23andMe? Probably was. Anyway, continue.
Tori told me 2 years ago that she cheated on me. We did a paternity test to make sure, and well, he's not my biological son. My ex and I divorced a few weeks later, and ever since my son found out the truth, he wanted to meet his biological father. He did, and they started to become really close. It hurt me much more than I thought it would. He's an adult and he can make his own decisions, but it hurt really bad. They started to bond really well, and all of a sudden, Adam became really distant from me. It's been like this for almost a year and a half now. I tried to text him to make plans for dinner, and he said he's busy with Chris, his biological father. I've tried numerous times to connect with him by calling and texting, but he's never made plans aside from like a meal every other month or so. We used to do stuff every other week, but it's been completely different since he found out about Chris. I couldn't stand it. My son, who I raised since he was a baby, treated me like I didn't matter. Anytime we'd actually have plans, he would still be cold and distant. What I mean by that is he became much more defensive of his personal life. I'd ask him how his classes were, how his friends were, and he'd just say they were fine, but would never go any deeper than that. He also changed his major from econ to computer science and didn't even mention to tell me until a year later. I told him how much he was hurting me because of how distant he has been, and he apologized and said he would do better. He never did. I told him numerous times, and he's never changed. He's still being distant. Well, this was the final straw for me. We had a phone conversation last week, and he said he was going to change his last name to Chris's last name because he liked it so much and because they've become so close. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told him this. I can't believe you're going through with this. That's really disappointing to me. If you decide to change your last name, go ahead. But if you do, then I'm no longer your father, and I don't want to be involved in your life any longer. He hung up on me. I didn't even bother reaching out because I know he wouldn't respond. I stand by what I said. I meant every word, and I still do. The last name change, to me, that means he no longer views me as his father, and he views Chris as his father, despite the fact that he's already 22. My family told me that I'm being unreasonable. Meanwhile, my best friend, he thinks it's totally reasonable. I was told to post it here and ask the people what they thought. So here we are. I'm just going to add some info. After I found out about Chris, I took a couple of days off and didn't speak to my ex-wife or Adam, and they didn't contact me either. I didn't contact them. I needed a break after all this. And for anybody asking if there's a deeper meaning behind this, I think I finally figured out why he's being so cold. A few months before my wife told us the truth about this affair, we had an argument about his grandma who had left a big inheritance for him that I am fully in charge of. It's enough to pay for his entire college. And he had asked me for $3,000 to pay for his girlfriend's tuition that she was late on. And I had said no. We didn't talk for several weeks, but he came back around. And at the time, I had never met the girlfriend or didn't know how serious they were. So there is that. What do you think?
I was throughout the story was going to say he's not the asshole until he said, fine, you're going to take his last name? I'm not your father anymore. At that point, you're the asshole. Like, pull your big boy pants up and fucking... He's going to come back to you. He's going to need you. And if you say that, eventually, it may not be, it might be a year. It might be like, who knows? Chris might end up being a dick. And he might be like, or who's the
actual
the
biological
adopted,
dad?
Yeah. Might end up being just an asshole. And he might need to come back to his father that's raised him his whole life. But if you tell your kid, like, and he just said it, like, I've been raising him since he was a baby. And then you say, I'm not your father if you do this. I couldn't imagine ever saying that, ever. That pissed me off. So yes, you are the asshole. Fucker. Sorry.
Yeah, so many emotions. Like, I could feel the hurt, right? I could feel the hurt in the betrayal that this dad had in his, as he was writing this. You know, not only did he find out that his wife of so many years had cheated on him, this child who is now an adult that he raised, that he thought was a miracle baby, right? Like, actually, you know, that messes with you. That's got to give you like some sort of like pause in your life to be like, whoa, wait a minute. What does this mean for me? Like, does this change things? And then throw on top of that the kid having a whole bunch of interest, you know, complex emotions behind finding out that his father was not actually his father. And then, you know, it sounds like he right away had the curiosity of who actually is my father, going through like so many complex emotions throughout all of that. And then having your child, and I'm sure it sounds like he took it as, you know, a slap in the face or whatever from raising him all of his life to be like, okay, well, what does it mean to be like, I'm not going to have your last name anymore? To him, it's like saying, you're not actually my dad, right? So I can tell that really, really hurt him. But at the same time, and I think that he is absolutely in the wrong for saying, I'm no longer your father then.
Yeah.
Yep. I think that was also like the point where I was like, I feel for you, but you got to be still the adult here.
Right.
Like, you can't wallow. You need to figure this out in your emotions and actually regulate yourself and figure it out to continue to be there.
You're being selfish.
Right?
With
like
your emotions.
When you're a parent, you're a parent forever.
Mm-hmm.
No matter what screw ups that your child does. Like, that is your job. Your job is to be there no matter what. Not to enable, which sounds like he was doing a good job of not doing that, being responsible with the inheritance and the money and so forth for college. I would not give my child $3,000 to pay for their girlfriend's tuition either.
Yeah.
Like, good job. Like, you were supposed to, that's the stuff that you're supposed to do, but you're supposed to be there forever, no matter what. I think of Jerry, who like claimed basically the fatherhood position for like Morgan and you and Taylor but like,
For those listening,
oh,
Jerry from Father Knows Something.
Yeah.
All tied together.
And so despite him not being anybody's bio dad, he's like, I have claimed this role, and he has been there forever and has, proclaimed that no matter what screw ups go on or whatnot, that he's always going to be there. Like, that's what parenthood is.
Yep.
So, yeah. And if your child is then rejecting you, then okay, figure out what the disconnect in that relationship is.
Yes.
And sometimes that means going to a counselor and figuring that out. Maybe there's something on his end that he could be doing a little bit better in that relationship with his adult child. Matt?
Go ahead.
I see the wheels turning.
I'm torn. All right. So I was going to say, I'm going to lean towards not the asshole.
Oh.
Here's the deal. I agree with you. I don't think you should have said that. I don't think he should have went off and said, I'm not your father. Like, that's an emotional response. And you're right. He needs to
a big emotional response.
It's huge, right? He needs to regulate. But let's put this into perspective a little bit. His wife of 20 years, he just found out that she cheated on him. He's raised this kid as his own. It's a huge betrayal, right? That sucks. That would be devastating beyond belief. You're continuing to try to raise this kid, and okay, this is where like he is the asshole portion comes in a little bit. Is that the kid's 22, right? You also have to understand, like, I was acting a fool at 22. Like, I was not mature at 22. Like, that kid is also like dealing with these new found out emotions and relationships that are developing, and it's a lot to take into account. So yes, should the father have known, like, hey, my son is also dealing with all of these things that I'm dealing with, but it's not the son's fault.
Right.
So it's a really hard situation. You're an asshole for saying that. Overall, I think I'm going to give you some grace and say that you wrote this like a day later. And I don't know, maybe he's given an update. I know he's an asshole for saying it.
Right.
But is he an asshole? I'm not sure yet.
Well, and there's a difference between saying it and acting it, right?
Correct.
So saying in the heat of the moment, which, I mean, still, like, that could like really give somebody years and years of damage. I'm not your father anymore. Blah, blah, blah.
I think it's super unfortunate.
Versus, yeah, like, I'm very sad that those words came out of his mouth, period. But then, like, is there action behind it where he's like disconnected, no longer like interacting with him, like not acting like a parent? Is he still going to be there? Like, what's the action?
And then this could keep going. And then how stubborn is the kid? Because you said that, I'm never talking to you ever again, or whatever the case might be. But I think you have to have some sort of general self-awareness and empathy for, like, what you were saying, like what the 22-year-old is going through, all these different emotions. The last thing you want to say is, I'm not your father. Like, if you really want to push somebody away,
that's exactly how you do it.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. So what's your answer?
Mad.
What's your answer? What's your final answer? Dun dun.
Yeah, you're probably the asshole in this instance, and you need to check yourself and rewrite some of this here. We'll see if he's given an update. But I want to know who Chris is. In 2 years, he's been able to meet this dude, develop a serious relationship. I'm not sure how quickly. Maybe dad's best friend. I'm not sure. Or did they say and I missed it?
No.
I read it.
Go for it.
I was thinking this also, and I didn't say it yet, was that's two completely different relationships. You're meeting an adult as an adult, and so it's probably more of a friendship relationship versus an actual parental relationship where somebody raised you your whole life, and then you're also at that point where you're just beginning into adulthood. So it's like you're at that stage where your parent is like letting you go, but also there and probably still holding on to some of the parenting role itself of like, you should do this, you shouldn't do this. So I'm guessing that, and that can be really difficult for a young person who is trying to like fly and leave the nest.
Adam
right?
and Chris are probably out living the bachelor life, having beers, playing darts, pool, going to the bars.
Yeah.
Ballin'.
I was gonna say too, like I think that's one of the adoptees' parents' worst fear is that this scenario. Like if let's just use me for example, if I pursued and wanted to meet my biological mother or father, and I see like you have so many of the same demeanor traits and like reactions and like you could probably get zoned in pretty dang quickly of like how like the things I do, you're also doing, and they might have just hit it off just like that. And that's, like I said, he's 22. He's still young. He's going through all these different emotions, but maybe that's why he's like, I'm taking this last name because like we have so many of these like deeper similarities that like, my gosh, the way you raise your eyebrow on some things like this, that's what I do. Like all the little stuff that, you know, those two would only see and not the outside. And I think that's the number one fear of an adoptee, like parents, is like, okay, well, yes, obviously go meet. I hope everything goes well. But I was like, what if? Like, what if you push us off? What if we're distant all of a sudden? And
what if it disrupts our relationship that we have with you?
Yeah, for your whole life.
The amount of love that they have for you.
Exactly.
Do you feel like that's part of the reason you haven't wanted to meet your bio parents?
Yeah, I think so. Because I see them as my true parents, and for whatever the case might be, why I was put up for adoption. Thankfully I was. My parents took me in. And like since then I've never had the urge, and to this day, like the thoughts go through my house, not to meet them. It's more of like, I wonder what they look like, or I wonder this and that, but not like meeting them face to face. I never had that desire urge to even ask, really.
You are a minority, sir.
Yeah. Why is that?
Up to 70% of adoptees feel an ambiguous loss in relation to their biological parents and want to meet their biological parents at some point throughout their life.
Yeah, and I will say what I'm saying tonight, I'll guarantee you that my brother Nick and my sister Alex would say the same thing that I'm saying tonight. So that's a tribute to our parents.
Well, your parents are bomb.com.
Yeah. Yep.
I love Raj and Joanne.
Yeah,
They're
so that's a credit to them, because the three of us, we've talked about being adopted, but not once, and probably never will be like, oh, I'm Alex or Nick going off on their own route saying I'm going to try to meet my biological parents. I'm going to meet my biological parents. Like, it won't.
Just hasn't been a thing.
Oh. And if it ever did, I guarantee you one of us would come to each other. They won't just go off and do it on their own.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, I cannot find a post or a comment on here in regards to him being an asshole. They are all not the asshole, not the asshole, not the asshole, not the asshole, not the asshole.
Really?
Not the asshole, but there's got to be something more going on here. Your story doesn't make sense. Why did your relationship with your son deteriorate over 2 years so quickly? What are we missing?
Interesting.
It's a shame that your relationship deteriorated like this. Your child is an adult, and at this point, he's clearly choosing Chris over you. I'm sure it's been really tough on you since you were the one that raised him. And yes, wow, your ex, she sucks. But you can't force him into maintaining your relationship. Unfortunately, you're not actually the father. Maybe after he grows up a bit and matures, you guys can have some sort of other kind of relationship. Sorry you got dealt such a shitty deck.
I just disagree.
Yeah, it's very surprising.
Yeah.
Kind of worries me about society. But
Because he clearly is the father if he raised him for 22 years of his life.
Kids don't usually stop talking to
Not
their parents
biodad.
for no reason. I'm curious what info you're not including, sir.
See, I did have a whisper of those feelings as well.
The rhetoric is all pretty much the same.
I think there's some communication breakdowns that if he, the dad, went to some counseling to figure that out, that could be helpful.
yeah. Yeah. Still said the words, I'm not your father if you do this.
If, it's not something that's
Right.
conditional.
It's just like, regardless of what is happening in the story,
Yeah,
I don't know. You say those words out loud directly.
Unconditional love is what parenthood is to me.
Yep.
I'm just trying to envision finding out that your kids aren't your kids and how you would take that and what you would do and at what age are you I'm gonna bow out. I'm done. I'm not gonna commit myself to this anymore. Is that after 2 years, 22 years, 5 years, 7 years? I don't know. I couldn't imagine getting dealt that blow.
I think giving space is huge.
Mm-hmm.
If he would like what we were saying, this whole story was okay, I understand. He's upset.
Mm-hmm.
He's mad. Give him space. You're
Yeah.
obviously a huge part of his life. He will, I'm not saying come back to you, but you are going to still be a huge resource influence in this kid's life. But that kid is now going to come back to whatever, even if they do get back to a good relationship, he still said those words directly to his face so that he can always have that to be oh, he's acting like this again, or maybe he really doesn't love me, or, just those words. The words matter. He
Right.
could think that, but the fact that they came out of his mouth directly to him.
Brings me
It's
back
big time.
to Mother's Day this year
Oh,
when my
Go on.
lovely little 7-year-old was so tired and so hungry after a really, really fun little weekend. But I had told her we could not go and do something that she wanted to do, like this little maze thing. And she got really upset. And again, so tired. And turned around and was yelling at me as we were walking out to our car. She turned around, "You're the worst mom ever. I hate you. I hate
the
you."
H word
And I was like, "That's
in
fine.
public.
That's fine. I love you. That's fine." And she
Nice.
she got so mad at
It was great.
she got so mad that I was like, "That's fine. You can have, whatever feelings you've got towards
Yeah.
me. That's fine. I still love you." And she goes, "I'm trying to hurt your feelings."
both fists clenched.
I was gonna say, you're
and
doing this.
just stomping her feet. Just I'm trying to hurt your feelings.
Poor thing. Oh gosh. Well,
That's a good response. Not
she fell asleep minutes later
Yeah.
as we left the parking lot.
Yeah.
And she woke up and was feeling much better and is the sweetest child alive. So I think that was only just the moment. We all have our moments of big feelings.
but I think you
Yeah.
reacted that's probably the perfect way in that situation to react. Because if you would react with her emotions, and
It's hard sometimes.
that night,
It's hard sometimes.
Yep.
So anyway, yeah.
On Mother's Day too.
Emotions.
Yeah.
It was a long day.
It was a long day.
It was a long weekend.
It was. It was fun. It was good, but it was a lot.
Yeah.
All right. Anywho.
All right, we've made a switch. New snacks, new reader.
Yep.
Have I read the stories?
No,
Okay, bear with us then.
I enlarged them for you.
Thank you.
That's what she said.
That's funny. You're not just a pretty face, Ryan.
Yeah.
Am I the asshole for canceling the plans for Thanksgiving after my parents called my brother's baby their, quote, first grandchild? I, 32 female, have been with my wife, Ava, 34 female, for 8 years now, but we've been married for 5. She was a single mom of 3 kids when we started dating. She had 2 daughters, now ages 10 and 12, and a son, now age 16. I've watched these kids grow up. I've read them bedtime stories, done bath time, the first days of school, PTA meetings, all of it. I very much consider them to be my kids, and they've been calling me mom for almost 6 years now. My brother Ivan, 28 male, just had a baby girl with his fiancée Sarah, 27 female. I love my niece and my kids adore their cousin. My kids have been the only grandchildren on my side of the family since Ava and I got together, and there's never been a moment where the kids and my wife were treated like they didn't belong. My brother is their uncle, my mom and dad are their nana and pop. The kids see my family as their family, and I always thought that my family felt the same way about them. The kids and I were over at my brother's house just hanging out, and my parents ended up dropping by with gifts for my niece. Ivan laughed when he saw the toys and told our mom and dad that they were going to end up spoiling her rotten. My mom said, since my niece is their first grandchild, of course they have to spoil her. My kids were sitting in the living room with all of us, and my youngest daughter looked hurt when she realized what my mother had said. My son and my 12-year-old didn't fully react to it, but I could tell it bothered the both of them too. Sarah spoke up and said, "Oh, you mean first grandbaby, not first grandchild." My dad shook his head and replied that my niece was their first grandchild. I didn't want my kids to keep sitting there.
Oof.
Yeah. I didn't want my kids to keep sitting there and listening to that, so I handed my son my keys and told him to wait in the car with his sisters. When they were gone, I asked my parents why the hell they would say that my kids weren't their grandchildren. And my mom said that they couldn't be their grandchildren because they weren't really my children.
Oh, bleh.
My wife and I were going to be hosting Thanksgiving at our house this year, but I told my parents that if they didn't view my kids as their family, then they could just host a meal at their own house with their real family while I spent the holiday with mine. I left before they could say anything else to me, and my wife and I have reiterated to the children that they will always be my kids, and I will always be their other mom, regardless of our DNA. My brother is pissed at me now because he thinks I reacted too harshly and that I should try to see where my parents are coming from. My mom texted saying that she and my dad love the kids, but they still aren't their grandchildren, and she hopes that we can come to understand that because she doesn't want this to ruin my niece's first Thanksgiving. I haven't replied back. I meant what I said, but I'm worried that maybe I'm reacting too harshly. Am I the asshole?
Can we all say this together?
Fuck those parents.
Oh, you're not the asshole. Oh. All right. Do you want some info? Some edited info? Okay. I adopted all 3 of the kids about 4 years ago, so they aren't just my parents' step-grandchildren. Even if I hadn't legally adopted them, they'd still be my kids in my eyes. Edit number 2, my wife's parents don't have a relationship with the kids. When my wife came out, they pretty much stopped speaking with her entirely. Their bio dad is not involved, and neither is his family. He lost his rights to the children before Ava and I started dating. The 10-year-old has never met him. The 12-year-old doesn't remember him, and the 16-year-old wants nothing to do with him. My parents wanted the kids to call them Nana and Pop. I didn't make the kids start calling them that. So basically, the kids don't have any other grandparents that they call grandma and grandpa or associate with. Ooh, yikes.
Yeah, I think outside of what Nana said was the mom seeing the emotional reaction of the kids. Like she understood what she kind of said, what she said. Like one didn't, maybe wasn't paying attention, but like she's like, I could tell the other two they felt it and they knew it. So then I had to, kind of re-say, we love you. What? Why would you say that, Mom? That's beyond that. Again, that's kind of like the last story. It worries me about society and why you should say that again.
Mm-hmm. And they doubled down. They were given the opportunity, like, hey,
the only benefit of the doubt.
You can take this back.
It's not even a benefit of the doubt. I don't agree with it at all. But like the grandparents' upbringing and like their whole mindset and how far back that goes, who knows? No, we'll never know. That's the only thing I could say. Like, but I don't agree with that at all. But that's the only like
way you can justify it.
If I had to justify it.
Aren't these children, like, aren't these individuals that you love, that you care for, that if you're looking at it like you're a grandparent, do you not care for these kids' feelings? Like, for them to double down on that just makes it so much worse. Because I can...
Yeah.
You kind of touched on it, like the mindset of going back to like the older days, right? Like where are they coming from? Sure, I could see that, like, okay, this is like our first biological. I can understand how you might have those feelings, but
that's a stretch too.
And that's a stretch, and I don't agree with it at all.
Yep.
Okay, I'm trying to be devil's advocate here, a little. I'm playing empathetic to them. I don't agree with it at all. I would never say that. I would, like, if Eloise ended up marrying a woman and ended up having stepchildren, like, I would bring those children into my house with open arms and spoil them and do the whole 9 yards. But yeah, for them to double down and say, nope, that's not the case. This is our first grandchild. They're not these aren't our grandchildren. Well, what are they then to you? Like, this is your daughter. This is her life. Yeah. Like, you are straight up giving the middle finger to your daughter and telling her to fuck off. And fuck those parents. I said it earlier. I don't like them at all. I'm out. I'm out of that situation. I'm not going there. I'm not going there for holidays. I'm not going there for nothing. And the brother, that's
a good point.
Like,
he should be standing up for the fact that his sister has these children that she has adopted.
Yeah.
And are just as worthwhile and worthy as any biological.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So
the fact that the two grandparents are so aligned is very worrisome. Like the fact that the dad or the grandpa backed up the grandma so quickly. Like, nope.
Can I just say this? I might be so off base here. Okay? And I might get some heat for this one.
Oh, man.
First holidays, first birthdays, they don't mean shit to the child. They don't mean nothing. It is for the parents and the grandparents. That's it. You're not ruining that kid's first Thanksgiving. No, it's for you. We threw a first birthday party, okay? That wasn't for Eloise. Those 60 to the 100 and some odd people that were on the guest list, 60 that showed up,
Yeah.
was for us.
Didn't
Was for
think
you.
they'd all come.
Us, not
I
for
made
Eloise.
really cute
so this grandma
invitations.
can just
We have not thrown a birthday party like that since. It was very nice.
It was, and it was good,
It
but-
was really nice to see how many people came to support us. However, yes, that birthday party was for us, not really for the child. And Thanksgiving, and that's a birthday where you're like supposed to focus on the person
child.
who was
You're
born,
supposed to-
right?
That person. Yes.
Thanksgiving, you're supposed to give thanks for everyone and everything and for being blessed with a wonderful family and so forth. Like you're not supposed to focus on this is the baby's Thanksgiving, nobody else's. Like that's silly.
She's the goddamn devil. That's what she is.
Oh man.
Yeah.
So
Is there?
I don't know.
I wonder what their relationship is now. The daughter and her parents after that.
Hopefully non-existent.
Oh, well, like I hope that they can repair.
What are these?
Because clearly
I hope they can talk some sense into those grandparents.
Go ahead. Clearly.
that these grandparents have not said anything like this in the past until this situation in the story, with how surprised and awestruck that the daughter was.
Right.
So then it's like, okay, mom, dad, how long have you been feeling this way since we adopted? Since day one? Like, and you haven't said anything until it just built up now, and then you just said it in front of everybody, in front of my kids, and
And now that you said that, it just like popped into my brain, so I got to say it, obviously. Does it also bring up the thought of like, oh, well, like, how much do you actually support my marital relationship?
Mm-hmm.
Are you
goes deep from jail? Sure.
like, it is a real relationship, right? So like, if you're not supporting these children as your grandchildren, like,
Are you supporting me in my marriage?
yeah,
Yep.
exactly. Or are you just like playing a part because socially that's what you're supposed to do at this point in day and age, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's some deep things
Then
going on
even
there that
deeper. Like, I'm super curious about the conversation with the mom and the oldest child. Like, was she like, does she bring it up again as a parent? Like, okay, well, you heard Nana say this, but or do you not say anything and hoping that they didn't even comprehend it? Or if you don't say anything, do you think they did hear that and then they're wondering?
how do you repair
Like, how do you have that
relationship?
conversation with your kids, and then
think-
then the relationship with the grandparents? Because you obviously want that to be a positive.
I think you try to be as honest as you can, being like, hey, I think I know that some really hurtful things that were said, and validate them. Yep. Like, I would be hurt too if I heard that. I'm going to talk to Nana and Pop. Like, I'm going to take this. Don't worry. I'm going to take care of it. And no matter how you take care of it, whether it's laying down boundaries and being like, hey, parents, my parents, grandparents, if you ever say that again, you will never see me or these kids again, because that is not fair and it is not demonstrating love. Like, my kids are not second class, any biological kids, or whatever boundary it is. A
good way to
boundary,
put that,
a
second
boundary, the
class.
definition of a boundary is what you will do. You're not saying like you can't do this, or you a lot of times you are, but the boundary itself is what you are going to do if such and such happens. So lay that out. Tell them this, what you said was unacceptable. Move on if you can. And if you can't, well, those kids have two very lovely, very loving moms that care so much about them, and it'll all be okay.
Yeah.
Did any updates? Any?
Yeah.
Okay, we've got some comments. Okay. The worst part of it for me is that they said it in front of them. I'd still be upset knowing that they thought it, but the look on my youngest daughter's face when she heard my mother say that just broke my heart. There is an update. There's an update.
All right.
Ooh.
Hi. I thought I'd just leave you all with an update here since it doesn't look as though things are going to change anytime soon. My wife and I talked with all 3 of the kids separately and asked them what they wanted to do for Thanksgiving. If they wanted my parents there, if they still wanted to see them. My son and oldest daughter have made it very clear that they are mostly upset at my parents for hurting their younger sister's feelings. Oh, they love her. And they felt that if my parents apologized to her and tried to make it up to her, then they'd be okay with seeing them still. My 10-year-old took it the hardest out of the 3. For her, they're the only grandparents she's ever known, and this whole thing really crushed her. My wife and I explained to her and to all the kids that none of this was her fault, that she didn't cause it, and that we're both equally her moms and she is equally our kid no matter what DNA says. She told us that she didn't want to talk to my parents, but she wanted me to make sure they knew that she wasn't mad at them, she was just hurt. I called my dad and told him how hurt my kids were by what was said by him and my mom, and that I would appreciate it if they apologized to the kids for being inconsiderate of their presence and their feelings. My dad said that he and my mother never intended to hurt the kids' feelings, but they can't change the fact that those aren't their grandchildren.
Old school people.
And that the kids shouldn't be so upset at the truth.
They're not changing their ways.
Can I...
Hold on. It goes on. I hung up on him.
Good.
I know I can't make them view my kids as their grandchildren, but the fact that both of my parents are being so inconsiderate of the fact that they seriously upset my children just makes this whole thing even worse. I texted my brother and told him that I was sorry if he felt like he was being put in the middle of something, but as a parent, my priority is my kids, and I won't apologize for protecting them from what I think will hurt them further. I guess Sarah talked to him or something because he apologized to me and said he'd like for his daughter to have Thanksgiving with her aunts and her cousins. I did also thank Sarah separately for offering my parents an out and trying to salvage the situation. She's a total sweetheart, and I love her. Thanksgiving is going to be hosted at my house, just without my parents there. It's unfortunate, but like I said, my kids are my priority, and I refuse to have them sit at a table with people who can't even take a minute to show them some empathy or basic kindness. There we are.
That's unfortunate. I thought the grandparents would come around.
And why is this the hill to die on?
I don't know. I think it goes back to my first kind of saying of, not that I agree with it at all, but the grandparents' upbringing and how far back that whatever belief system and how they grew up became. Because if they can't like make their daughter happy and just even if they don't believe it, but they can say it, they can't even do that. That's some hardcore stuff.
All right. So I was gonna say this, and shame on these grandparents. And then we're going to move on and get one last story in. But shame on them for not coming around. They were given now a third opportunity to come around and solve the problem, fix it. You know, I was going to say it is probably a mindset shift to inherit grandchildren, where your daughter marries in to children, and then the situation is different. And I think you should still be excited to and you should be supportive of your daughter in that relationship, and you should love those kids the same as you would any other kids, right? I want to just say, there was probably some set expectation in their brain, our kids are going to have biological kids. That doesn't make it right. It's really unfortunate that they didn't come around given multiple opportunities. And Ryan said it multiple times. It's just a old school way of thinking, and it's super unfortunate.
So maybe the lesson here is to keep an open mindset, especially if maybe you were raised in that old school way of thinking, and maybe it's going to take a little bit of effort on your part to change some views for the better. But if your loved one is coming to you with with this sort of issue and request and so forth, don't be so close-minded. Don't make this the hill you die on.
I agree. And I try to see things from everyone's side, but I just can't get on board with the grandparents at all.
All right, moving on.
All right.
Am I the asshole for kicking out my sister after she sabotaged a meeting with a fertility clinic? 8 years ago, my 29-year-old female sister, 32-year-old female, got pregnant. The father wasn't involved, and my sister didn't want the baby, but she also couldn't bring herself to terminate or adopt out to strangers. She approached me and my now ex-husband and asked if we would be willing to adopt her child. We weren't sure, as we were concerned this would lead to issues down the line, but my sister insisted that it wouldn't, so we ultimately agreed. Before Lucy was a year old, my husband left us both because my sister lied about Lucy's father. When Lucy was four, I got together with my wife, and we married last year. My sister has said that seeing me and my wife with Lucy, who is now 7, confirms to her that she made the right decision. When I first adopted Lucy, my husband and I told my sister that we wanted multiple children, which she said she was fine with at the time. But now my wife and I are looking into our options, and my sister objects. My sister has been staying with us since July because her boyfriend kicked her out. She keeps asking Lucy if she's sure she wants siblings. Lucy has said that she does, and telling us she's worried we won't be able to give Lucy what she needs. And then today happened. We had an online consultation with a fertility clinic to talk about sperm donation. We told my sister about it and asked her to keep an eye on Lucy while we talked. The Wi-Fi went randomly on and off 3 times during the session, booting us off the call each time. The 3rd time, my wife went to check it and saw my sister holding the power cord and Lucy trying to plug it back in. Lucy saw my wife and said, "Auntie keeps turning the Wi-Fi off." Wife plugged it back in, but we could no longer get into the session, and we got an email from the doctor saying that if the Wi-Fi is going to be this bad, then maybe we should try a more local clinic, as we can't do online consultations. When we confronted my sister, she admitted that she wants Lucy to be an only child, so she has 100% of our undivided attention, and then said in a sarcastic tone, "Forgive me for only wanting what's best for my daughter." To which we responded that Lucy isn't her daughter. Things escalated until I said that my sister should go stay with our parents, and my wife drove her to their place. Since leaving, a few hours ago, she's apologized and begged to come back, and my parents have also asked me to take her back, but I've refused. They've all called me an arsehole for kicking my own sister out after one argument because now she's unable to get to work. No car, too far to walk. And she's back in her childhood room, while at our place she had a studio to herself behind the house. Am I the asshole?
Again, no, I don't think you're the asshole. I don't think you're the asshole because this goes back to our previous story, and what?
Go on. Nope, keep going. Goes back to the previous story.
And I know I guess my situation is different, but it's a popular thing, I guess, keeping this whole adoption thing within the family. Like it ruins things. It's too close. It's such a very important decision, and it can just tear. It's like going into, when people say don't go into business with your friends, don't keep a child with your sister, type of thing. I don't know. It's just
that is a hot take. I disagree.
Oh man, it's too close. And this is the second story tonight we've read that you have my child, you said a comment, and then just the family's torn apart.
I mean, I gave a take on 2 hot takes similar, and I agree with you that when you do business and personal decisions and choices with family, it complicates things. It makes things more difficult, more emotions involved. And I'm referring to the sperm donation episode on Two Hot Takes for those that have heard it.
Having the brother as the sperm donor.
Right.
Right.
Like, I agree with you. I do think it makes it more complicated. I don't necessarily think it's a bad decision because I've seen it work out.
Right.
But it does come with more complications.
There's more risk.
And I think that in this specific instance, like, it's very close. Your sister's in your house. Your sister's like living with you. She knows that you're trying to have other kids. Like, you got to separate a little bit. You got to put some boundaries up and some distance in between your personal life and the relationship that you have with your sister. Like, there should be some boundaries there of what is.
Yeah. And that's my like 30,000 foot bird's eye kind of thinking and overview. It was like, there is going to be that risk involved that if you keep this all in house, let's say, these conflicts are going to come up whether you like it or not. Like, it's going to happen in some fashion. You might figure it out and it might be just great, or something simple might just, somebody might overreact and might tear the whole family up.
Amy's over here just chomping at the bit to rip me and Ryan a new one. So let's get it over with. Let's go.
Well, I think that it's really situational, and thinking about, like, hearing about, okay, who this sister is, Lucy, right? So, or not Lucy, that's the kid. Yes. But the sister, she is living, either she was kicked out by her boyfriend. That seems like an unstable situation, living with her sister. And then sister says, nope, you crossed a line, you overstepped your boundary. You have to go stay with mom and dad now in your childhood bedroom. And now she's like they are mostly upset because at sister's house, she had a studio apartment, and, oh, what was her? Like, I feel like that's more the issue, and this whole, like, kind of wanting to have your cake and eat it too. And
I thought, and this was just the way I took it, I thought OP was like, now you're at mom and dad's house in your childhood bedroom, and you're now missing out on your studio apartment. You fucked this up. Did I take that wrong? I feel like OP is being like,
my
fuck you.
My parents have also asked me to take her back.
Yep, they did.
Because they've called me an asshole for kicking my own sister out after one argument. Yep. Because she's back in her childhood room, while at our place she had the studio room all to herself. So I didn't like. I
take that as like, okay, mom and dad called me because, I'm an asshole because I'm not letting her come back. Now you're in your childhood bedroom versus the one studio apartment. Poor you, boo-hoo, fuck off.
I don't think that's the issue, though. I think
I don't think it's an issue
of this story is kind of the core is the comment that was made. Not that you're going back home and you're staying in your kid's room. I think that was more of a comment from her, like, well, now you're back home and your kids, in your childhood room where you had this awesome room here. I think that's kind of the high level, but like the core of why was she kicked out? Because of the comment.
She wanted to have the best for her daughter.
Right. So I think that's the core. All the other stuff is fluff,
Which it's not, right? Biologically, blood, yes. But from a bond and a relationship status, not the case.
You got to chew that chip.
Let's get it over with.
All right. It's out of the way.
No more chips.
Oh.
Right? Am I wrong there?
Right. Like, that's more the issue. That's the issue, is that she is saying, this is my daughter.
Right.
Just like, it wasn't part of the issue of that sperm donor story. Like, the sperm donor, which was the brother, was like, well, that's my child.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, I think if you are thinking about adopting within families, having that conversation of, okay, well, what does that make you in this situation for all time? You are going to be aunt.
Yes.
Right.
For all time. And this is how things are going to go.
Yep.
Having counseling prior to getting into that situation. So everything is clear as much as possible. But it's also, I think that she's in her right to kick her sister out, honestly, because, I mean, she's not responsible for her.
Right.
As an adult, fellow adult. Okay, some comments. She messed with the Wi-Fi and ruined a consultation that could have given your little family a lovely new addition. She ruined and delayed something that was important to your family. Call the clinic back and explain the Wi-Fi problem has been solved and you'd like another consultation. Another comment, not the asshole. This is grounds for a permanent ban, in my opinion, especially with the my daughter comment. Not the asshole. Once sister adopted Lucy to you, she stopped getting to make these decisions. She's an aunt now, not a mom, and gets to make decisions aunt gets to make, which emphatically doesn't include decisions about siblings.
That's tough. Not that I agree with her, but that comment, that's in the sperm donor's mindset, like that's got to be a tough pill to swallow.
But you got to swallow it if that's
you have to.
If that's the decision you're making to either be a sperm donor or you know, do the adoption route.
Yep.
Yeah. These are heavy, guys. But yes, overall vote, not the asshole.
Yeah, and I think what you said just a little bit ago is key. And I'm sure for the situations that work out very well, they've had that conversation of the whole spectrum. You know, what if this comes up? What if that comes up in this situation? Here's our roles. Here's how it's going to play out. Here's how we're all in agreement of this. And I think that's super important, because if you just do it to do it because it's convenient and easy and you don't have those conversations, then I think these stories that we've read tonight kind of blow up and tears your family apart. But yeah, I think if you have that upfront conversation and you lay out all expectations and roles, that's kind of when the beauty happens.
All right, final story here.
We'll go from there.
Am I the asshole for not allowing my daughter to contact her bio parents? I, 40 female, and my husband, 42, have a daughter who's 9. She was adopted when she was born by myself and my husband, and she knows she's adopted. Her biological mom was a very sweet 17-year-old girl who wanted to give her the best life she could. I don't know if her father knows she was ever born. There were no drug issues or anything like that. Recently, she had a school project where she was supposed to write about where she comes from. She is determined to find her biological mother and father to find out. I offered for her to write about our family instead. My husband and I don't want her reaching out to them. We told her this, and she's upset, saying we don't understand and that she'll always wonder about them. She said we're being selfish and keeping her from finding out who she is. We obviously just want what's best for her. Am I the asshole?
Yes. You are the asshole.
Really?
Yeah.
I agree with you, Ryan.
You can't say like what's the best for you, and that's in this situation. I mean, she's curious, and in my own experience, like my parents have been very open and multiple times have said, if you want to reach out to your biological, let us know.
Okay.
Let us know. I understand she's 9 years old,
she's
but if
9,
she's already
she's
this
9.
curious about it, like there's some maturity behind this that I want to find out who they are, what they're about. I don't think being 9 has a whole lot to do with this, because I think when it comes to adoption and somebody's curious about who, and they know what adoption is and they want to know who their biological is to learn more about them, I think that's just a different level than like different topics of a 9-year-old.
Yeah, it seems to me like she's like, I need to know who I am. I want, she keeping her from finding out who she is.
I think it's only going to hurt. I mean, no, you can't. Okay, well then she's going to keep trying, and it's only going to cause a bigger issue down the road.
I'm going to get roasted by the people.
Maybe not.
I'm a slow learner.
You might get roasted.
Okay, I'm an open-minded individual. I like to see all sides of this, but okay, you're 9 years old, you're in second or third grade, and as a parent, I don't know. I don't know if
You're third or fourth grade, right? At
maybe
9?
in third. I was 8 years old when I was in second grade.
Yeah. Claire was 8. Yeah, be third.
So third grade. I just don't know. Like, I'm trying to like think of Eloise if we had adopted her and she was like, I want to know where I come from. Like, I don't know at that age if I would, I don't know. I don't know if I would introduce that into her life or allow it. I'm not sure.
Okay,
And
here's a
I'm not
question
sure
then.
what the negatives are right now either, but I'm working through it. All right.
What do you think would happen if you said no? If she is coming to you and she's like, I need to know who I am. I need to know where I come from. And if you were to say no, how would she feel? And how would that go? And what would that do?
I don't know if I would put a hard no on it. I would try to work through that with her and say, all right, like, what are you looking for? What answers can I provide you? Here's all the things that I know. Here's all the things that I can tell you. As you get older, when I feel like you are ready, we will take you and we will go with you to meet your biological mother. The father doesn't even know the daughter exists from what it sounded like. So we'll do those things with you at an age that we feel is appropriate.
What age is that?
And that's why that was my first initial reaction. So if I came on strong, I'm not sure. 9 feels young to me.
As you were talking, I was like, the first part when you were saying like, come to me with questions, I'm happy to support you with anything, whatever you may have. Totally agree with that. Yeah, I think that's as you were saying, I was like, they already laid the expectations out. She's 9. She already knows she's adopted. They've already had that conversation. So that foundation's already set. It's not like she's, oh, I'm adopted. Can I go find out who they are? It's like she already knows she's adopted.
Sure. Yeah.
So for her, it's like, all right, that's set. Now it's like, okay, next level is who are they? Where do I come from? 9 is young. I'll say 9 is young to do that, but if she's already, that mature and wants to find out for this project and wants to know who she is and where she comes from, then I think as an adoptee parent, you have to be open, transparent, and build that trust. Because like you said, what if you say no? No.
And maybe it's also like preparing her for like, okay, let's just, if you were to meet them, let's walk through potential scenarios and how would you feel in those potential scenarios to feel that out and come to an agreement together. This does not equate, but I recall this. Okay. This is not the same thing, but it's similar. I was younger. I don't even remember how old I was, probably 4th or 5th grade or something, maybe. And girls were starting to shave their legs in school. And I went to my mom and I said, Mom, I'm ready to shave my legs. I need to learn how to shave my legs. And my mom said, you're too young to shave your legs. You know what I did? I asked my cousin, teach me how to shave my legs because I'm going to shave my legs because everybody else is shaving their legs and I am ready for this and this is what I want to do. So like, if your child is coming to you and they are saying, I am ready for this, I want to do this, and you're talking through pluses, minuses of doing that thing, and they're like, no, I really need this for myself, trust them. Like, if there isn't overt harm that is going to be coming from it, they're just gonna, there's the internet. This 9-year-old probably could go on the internet, honestly, and look stuff up herself or, not do it in a way that is most positive. So that's kind of, it's not the same thing.
I see where you're coming from, though. It's like, if you say no, then I'm going to find a way.
Right.
I'm going to go on the internet. I'm going to ask my dad, maybe, because my mom said no.
Right.
Like back into the conference. Oh, yeah. Okay.
You're good. I'm listening.
No. I agree with you.
And I wasn't even going to interrupt you because I was thinking. I was just say, I'll get on board. I think that parents need to be involved and they need to be actively working on the best route to make it happen. Then maybe the hard no is probably the wrong answer, but work together to figure out how to make it a smooth and
good experience.
Positive experience.
And I agree as a parent, like if a 9-year-old, that like I feel like that is early too. And like, oh, I want to find out. Like I'm sure, like, oh crap, it's already happening. Maybe it's 2 years earlier than we thought.
Right.
But that
I think that's
plan in place.
I think that's probably going to happen a lot as parents.
Absolutely.
So, okay. The overall vote was asshole. Yes.
Roast them.
Don't roast me, but just, I'm curious. Put it in the comments. I could be off base. You know what?
No, I really like what you said though. Ask me all the questions.
I've come around. I've come around a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, I like your open-mindedness there and your ability to be open-minded. Yeah. To
see
be
the
flexible.
other point of view.
It's good to be flexible.
Be the devil's advocate.
All right. Okay. Updates. I took some people's advice and called the phone number I have. To my surprise, she returned my voicemail. She did confirm the biological father does not know my daughter was born. I let her know why I was calling, but that I truly did not want them to have communication. I explained my reasoning and that we're her parents and are only doing what we think is best. She let me know that when my daughter and I are ready, she'll be there to answer any questions. I should also add her biological mother did offer to do an interview by sending a video answering my daughter's questions or an email.
That's awesome.
Super cool.
That's really awesome.
Super awesome.
That's so nice.
That's a really good idea.
Another update. We had a long conversation with our daughter last night about the reasons she'd like to talk to her biological mother and father. My husband and I had a long conversation after that. Today, we called her biological mother. They had a conversation over FaceTime with our supervision. Our daughter did ask about her biological father, and her biological mother did ask my husband and I if it was okay to talk about. She told our daughter his name, but doesn't know how to contact him. They were high school sweethearts and haven't talked in a couple years. I did promise my daughter we'd help find him. Maybe he'll see this here. Our daughter's name is Aubrey, and we're hoping she'll find him.
So this is a happy ending to this Reddit story.
Society. This is a happy ending.
There's hope for the world.
Awesome.
This is a very good ending.
No, that was a great ending to that. I support everything that they did. That
really tied the bow
we have
on it.
renewed faith in society and the world, right? Yes.
So, all right. I think that is the end of the stories. For anybody out there listening, anybody thinking about adoption, we think it is fantastic. There are currently an estimated 115,000 children up for adoption each year. There are opportunities out there. 1 in every 25 families adopts. It's very prevalent, even if you don't know. The last story that I'm going to tell here is a story that most people don't know.
Staring at me. I have no idea what you're going to say.
Oh, I mentioned it earlier.
Oh, we're going back to that.
We're going back. All right. It took me a long time to get there, but
this one.
A lot of people didn't know Ryan was adopted throughout our friend group. And we were playing summer volleyball, and Ryan, can you do your Mother Russia accent?
Okay, to go back a little bit of why the Russian accent was there, because if you go back to the beginning of this conversation, my younger sister, we adopted her from Russia. So I'll say, from Mother Russia. So from time to time, I'll just say, from Mother Russia. So that's why that accent came out. So fast forward to volleyball.
Here we are playing volleyball. People are finding out Ryan's adopted. and we're all drinking. It was Amy, myself, and one other individual, and the other individual asked me, she's like, well, where was Ryan adopted from? Where is he from? And I'm like, he's from Russia. Obviously, that's why he always does his accent out on the volleyball court. And she's like, oh, I very much said it in jest.
That was years.
I think I believed it, though.
Yes.
And she believed it.
And eventually...
And started a big rumor mill.
For years, right?
Like
at least a couple years.
Like
that
3 to 4
beyond
years.
me knowing that my friend group, everybody thought I was from Russia.
Yeah.
So then we were at this volleyball. They're like, well, the conversation came up about adoption, and this one girl in her friend group's like, oh, I mean, Miller's from Russia. So I was like, wait, what? So you're from Russia? I was like, no, not that I'm aware of. I'm not from Russia. She's like, yeah, you are. I was like, no, I'm not. I'm in fucking Boston. That's where I was born. And then the stories came out of the why behind it. I was like, this whole time you all thought I was from Russia? No.
You could be.
I mean, who knows? I could
Who
be.
knows?
You're right. You're
You
right.
could be.
I could be.
So that is our story on adoption. And
I'll just say too, if anybody has any questions or anything you want to leave in the comments about just even the little things that we've talked about in this conversation about
absolutely
being adopted and your kid asks, or like the mindset of wondering if you should want to meet or not meet, or just little things that you think about if you are adopted or just curious, leave it in the comments, contact one of us, and
we'll go from there. We'll
from
get
there.
back to you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Or tell us your story. Let
Yes.
us know what your experience has been. Again, I think it's a really personal thing, really individualized. So, yeah, we'd love to hear from you.
All right, everyone. Thank you. Stay tuned next week for another episode. Please follow us on YouTube, Instagram, like, subscribe, the whole 9 yards. Have a wonderful evening.